All right. Welcome to Google Calendar for Online Education. I'm so glad I got that worked out. Don't know what settings changed from the last time I did it in this one, but that's okay. We're going to spend the next couple hours looking at Google Calendar and applying it specifically to an online education setting. So a little bit about me to get started here. My name is Joel Perkin. I'm the CRT at Blue Ridge High School. This is my first year of CRT. Up to this point, for the last 7 years or so, I've taught chemistry, but I've also taught a lot of summer academy and professional development on Google Apps. And that's why Laura asked me to do these sessions with you. My first job out of college was actually doing IT, both software, hardware, and training for a school district. So this is right up my alley. My contact information should be on your screen. JT Perkin at all that Greenville stuff. My phone number is 1-864. Email me, call me. I will gladly get with you and work to get things figured out if you get stuck or forget how to do something. At the end of the session, along with the link to this recorded session, send out a link to this this presentation so that you'll have that to look at as well.
Stay tuned.
So let's take a look real quick at what we're going to do today. Good learning focus here. We're going to look at our essential question: how can I use Google Calendar to increase student success? Our standard is our student performance goals. We all have them. They're all slightly different, but we know what they are. So once we get through this introductory stuff, we're going to take a look at the basics of how to use Google Calendar. Then we're going to expand that a little bit to how to share calendars and events. This is really what Google Calendar was invented to share those things. And then we're going to look at any instructional strategies specific for online education that we might be able to use this. At any time, if you have a question, go ahead and use the chat feature to ask the question. I've got that up on my screen. I can see that. I will gladly take questions whenever. I know how this works. We're good with that. First thing we need to do is make sure that we are logged in the right place. Access to Google Calendar. And I realize
not 100%
it might be weird to try to get logged into Google Calendar while you're doing this presentation. So if you're not able to follow along as we're doing this, that's fine. That's why it's being recorded. That's why you've got the link to go back. The link to Google Calendar is google.com/calendar.
I would say
no surprise there. And if you're already logged in, there's also this little grid of 9, and that's called your apps. And if you click that button, all of the Google apps that you have installed in Calendar.
The way I would phrase this for
so that's kind of your alternate way of
your opening statement.
So just go to google.com, click on the little apps.
Already gone, but it's
and it'll go there. If everybody could mute their microphones for right now, I'm hearing voices.
Client's father's gun is one of the possible guns that fits this profile. I think it's important for the judge to remember that there were 22 separate weapons that this is just one of them. We don't think that's enough.
It is Greg
to link our client to the murder weapon. It's like, and you want to do basically the same thing. The defense is likely to say this, you know, and so
that would be very helpful.
And while there are several other weapons, there are other pieces of evidence.
So yes, I can see that
bring into the
some people have muted, but not everybody's
wants you to rule in our favor. We don't know who had another one. Didn't have an argument with Ms. Shore. Didn't have the motive
not quite on topic with all that
to her. Didn't have the opportunity because they just had the argument. So you kind of
while he's doing that,
what you're going to prove, why it's important. But
again, you'll see this little apps button here, and this shows you all of the Google
apps. How yours, you should weight my
you have access to
more than theirs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you just want to frame that, because that's probably one of the more important pieces of evidence. But tell them why it's important.
Sounds like a student there.
There's several other possibilities.
I should mention like the nose looks like it could.
No, I mean, whatever evidence you're going to use. Oh no, you're kidding.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind muting it.
Oh man, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thank you.
I think he's on. I just didn't run out of tell him. I read the word murder weapon.
That's so funny.
All right. So to check that you're logged in to the right place, you're going to see the calendar, which looks like this. It looks a lot like a paper calendar would. And then up in the corner, if you hover over that, it should show you that this is greenvilleschools.us. That is the account that we're going to be using, greenvilleschools.us account. If you've never logged into that before, yes, it was awesome. If you've never logged into that before, it's going to be the first part is just like your Greenville County Schools login, followed by @greenvilleschools.us. And then the temporary password is this right here, and that last one's a $sign. Capitals matter for this. The first thing it's going to do is ask you to create a new password. And then you'll have your greenvilleschools.us login. I highly recommend, from personal experience, that on a school computer, you only log in with your school account. Not only because Big Brother will watch you, but because it just keeps things separated a little bit better. You can see, you keep all your school things separate from your personal things, and never the twain shall meet. Once you're logged in, you've got your account all set up, you're going to see something that looks very much like this, where you're going to have calendar, other things, link this over here, and we're going to talk about what all of these things are in just a couple minutes. So today, just to reiterate, we're going to go over 4 things: how to create and manage events in Google Calendar, how to share events and calendars with other people, and that means both letting them see them and letting them take some control over them. We're going to talk about how to embed the calendars in web pages, and then we're going to bring it all back and focus more specifically on online instruction, the instructional strategies. Let's take a look at the first thing, creating and managing calendars. This is kind of the absolute basic part of using Google Calendar, which we're going to start here because I honestly don't know how much you all know about Google Calendar, how much you've done with it before. And you'll notice I keep the EQ down in the corner of every slide. It's a good way to stay focused, especially in the classroom, to keep your kids focused on what's going on. We're going to keep that down there. So we can create a calendar and we can create events. So if we take a look here, this looks very much like a blank page with some calendar that you'd keep on paper. Yeah, if you have another device to work through this, you can do that. This is being recorded, so you can always go back and replay it as well. 2 hours is not a ton of time to get through everything, so I might be moving a little fast to completely keep up with everything. But yes, if you want to be practicing this as we go along, I'm always suggesting that. It's a great idea. And you see I've got all these different colors on here, and the colors mean something. And I'm just going to get rid of and hide all these other things here, just so it looks empty, like we're starting off brand new. To put things on, you need to have a calendar to put your events into. And one of the great powerful things about Google Calendar is that it lets you create as many calendars as you need to keep track of different things. So, for example, I have a calendar for my AP Chemistry class that I was going to teach until it became CRT. I have a calendar for my National Honor Society. I have a calendar for chemistry, fall and spring, a calendar of my CRT responsibilities, my personal stuff, professional development, PTA, personals when I'm doing a show, science department left over from last year. And I can click on these to show the events, and then click on them to hide them. So if I showed everything, my calendar is just going to get completely filled up and overwhelming. And that's, well, pointless if you're trying to keep track of things and organize your life. Being overwhelmed with things does not work very well. So you can selectively hide the things you don't want to see in order to kind of pare it down and just focus on what's the most important at any given time. So to create a calendar, the way to do it is right next to My Calendars. this little down arrow, and that's your menu, your drop-down menu, and you create a new calendar. It works out pretty nicely that way. So if you click on that, you have to give your calendar a name. This is the one thing you have to do on the calendar. And so I'll just call this online practice calendar. And you can create as many calendars as you want. I don't know of an upper limit of how many calendars you can create. But I know friends of mine who will create calendars for each of their children's activities, work calendar, split them into several different things. You can create calendars for each of your classes. You can create calendars for projects inside the classes. There's lots of opportunities to use this to its full potential. If you're logged in your greenvilleschools.us account, the organization is already filled in for you. That's already set. Description is optional. Location is optional. Time zone, it's good. Set the time zone. Make sure you've got that right. And the rest of the stuff we'll talk about down here later. So go ahead and click on the Create Calendar button. And after it thinks for a second, you'll see that your calendar pops up in your list, and it's got a color next to it. But I noticed that the color for the Joel Perkin calendar and the color for this calendar are the same color. I don't want that. So to change the color, I can use the drop-down menu for this specific one and change it to any one of these 24 colors that it gives me. So I'll give it orange to make it stand out pretty well. And there, you've created a calendar. You can create as many calendars as you want. Just keep creating calendars for new things. You can hide calendars. You can delete calendars. You can download calendars. We'll get to all of those things today. But creating the calendars is really the first step, because when you put events onto your screen, you have to tell it what calendar you're putting it into. So this would be the equivalent of having all these different calendar books all open at the same time, all sitting on top of each other. You can see whichever ones you want to see. So once we've done that, our next step is to look at some of the settings on the calendars. And the settings are in this little gear in the upper right. In Google Talk, a picture of a gear is always going to take you to your settings. So I'll click that and click on settings. And we can see the general settings that we have here. Language, country, time zone, date format, how you want your dates to look, time, all these other things. Boring, you can read them, set it however you want. But one that I really like to use is the location, where I put in a zip code or a city, and then you can have it show you the weather forecast in Celsius or Fahrenheit. I used to be a science teacher. I stick with Celsius. Stick with the one you want. Once you've got that and you hit save, it will take you back to your main screen, and I can see that I have these little weather icons on each day. And if I just hover my mouse over it, I can see that today is forecast to be a high of 20 Celsius and a low of 7. Thursday is forecast to be a high of 12 and a low of 2. It'll put the 4-day forecast on here for you and update it every day. Very handy, very useful. Again, we get to that by going to the gear and settings, scrolling down, you put in your zip code or city, and then degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit, whichever one you prefer. The rest of the settings on here are ones that you can kind of look at on your own. I want to draw your attention also to the current time zone. Right now it should be Eastern time, unless Google has completely misread where your computer is. Yes, they actually can tell where your laptop is located. But you can display additional time zones. If, for example, you have online students who are in a different time zone, you can display this on your calendar so you don't have to think, do I add an hour or subtract an hour to make this work? So all you have to do is show an additional time zone. And let's say you've got a student in Seattle. Set it for Pacific time, or whatever one you want here. You can figure that out. And I'm just going to label that Seattle for my own benefit, so I can save it. And then when I save it, you'll notice over here to the left, I have the time zone where the teacher is and Seattle's time zones. So I can see it's a little after 4 o'clock here, and it's a little bit after 1 o'clock there. It's a really convenient way to keep track of these things. Now, you can only display 2 time zones at once. So if you've got students spread out all over the US, you just have to know that the other ones are somewhere between 1 and 4, unless they're stuck in Alaska or Hawaii. All right. So we've looked at the settings, the time zones, the weather. There's also what Google likes to call interesting calendars. To get to the interesting calendars, well, we've got your own calendars that you've created here, but there are other calendars. They are not very creative when it comes to naming things, which is actually good. If I click this drop-down box here, I can browse interesting calendars. We'll see how interesting you actually think they are. They put them in 3 categories: holidays, sports, and more. So Christian holidays, if you add this, you'll see all of the holidays of the Christian canon to your calendar. They will automatically pop up or populate on your calendar, including all of the feast of the saints days. All of those things will be on there if you want those. Jewish, Muslim, Orthodox, and then national holidays. And they've got a lot of national holidays on here. And of course, the US, being alphabetical, is way down near the bottom. And I've already subscribed to this one. The national holidays of the United States, federal holidays, show up on my calendar automatically. If you like to follow sports, you can click on the sports tab. You can follow baseball, basketball, cricket, football, hockey, rugby, soccer. I'm from up north. I'm from Michigan. I follow hockey. I've got that one subscribed to. But if you're a football fan, if you want to follow the Clemson schedule, you can just sports, football, NCAA, scroll down to Clemson Tigers, and subscribe. And it puts the Clemson schedule on your calendar. So it just pops up there every time they announce when their game's going to be. It puts it on there for you. And so to preview it, you get a little football icon. Every time they have a game, you just click on a little icon, and it gives you the details of the Clemson game. Yes, they also have South Carolina and Georgia and a lot of the other ones on here, so I'm not going to be partisan about this. Clemson's just the first one alphabetically. More birthdays. This will actually go through all of your contacts that you're friends with on Google and put their birthdays on your calendar if they've put their birthdays into their profile. I don't like subscribing to that. That's a little too personal for me. Days of the year literally counts the days of the year. So January 1st is 1, January 2nd is 2, February 1st is 32, and so on. Hebrew calendar, phases of the moon, so you can see when the full moon on it is, so you know when to brace yourself for the students. Sunrise, sunset, week numbers, and then star dates. Obviously, someone at Google is a Star Trek fan because these are the Star Trek star dates. They opened every episode. If you are that much of a geek, I bow to you. You can have those on your calendar if you want. Okay, so interesting calendars. You can add some personalization to that, the things you want to see. Personally, I follow the Greenville Road Warriors, so I've got their schedule on my calendar. And again, I can just click on the name of the calendar over here on the left to hide it because I don't always need to see when they're getting. All right. Now it's going to create events. And there's 3 ways to put events on the calendar. The first is this big red button that says Create. Kind of amazing, but that's how Google works. If you click Create, it takes you to a page where you can give the event a title. So I can say Google Calendar Workshop. I can choose the date. And you can just click on this to get a drop-down calendar, or you can type the date, however you want to do it. The time starts at 4 o'clock, and it goes until 6 o'clock, which it helpfully tells you is 2 hours. And it's going to end on the same day. I can choose another time zone. So, for example, if I get a notification from Phoenix that this event will be running from 4 to 6 Phoenix time, I can say, well, it's 4 to 6 Mountain Time Zone. And it will automatically adjust it for my calendar. If it's going to be an all-day event, meaning I don't want to put a time on it, I can click all day, and the times disappear. If it's going to be a repeated event that happens every so often, I can say this repeats every week, every 1 week, on Mondays, starting on this date. Does it never end? Does it end after 35 times? Does it end on a specific date? You can have it repeating daily, weekdays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, and so on. Yearly, I assume, is for people to remember anniversaries and things like that. It might be helpful. But this isn't going to repeat, so I'm going to leave that one off. I can enter a location, and this would be, I could say my office, online. I could put the join code or the URL that you use to join this in here. If you put an actual address, it will pop up a link to click on to take you to a Google map for that. So if you have something come up at the central office, the district office, you could put 301 East Camperdown, Greenville, South Carolina, and it will give you a Google map to that, which is nice. You have an address to go to, but you don't know where that is. We're not going to do a video call for this, so I'll just remove the video call. And here's where you have to choose what calendar you're putting this on. I have all of these calendars available to me. And so I'm just going to put this on the online practice calendar because that's the one we're working with today. Description is optional. I can choose an event color that's different from the orange I picked for this calendar. I can choose to get a notification if I want. I can have it pop up a window on my computer screen or send me an email. And let's say I want to be emailed 1 hour before this starts. It will send an email to my email address saying, don't forget, in 1 hour you have this event. If I don't want a notification, I just click the X to get rid of that. It can show me as available or busy, and be public or private. We'll come to that in a few minutes. Once you've got this done, you hit save, and there it is. From 4 to 6 o'clock on Monday the 10th, the Google Calendar Workshop. So that's one way to create an event. You click Create. Now to get rid of this, because I want to do this a few times, you just click on the event and you click Delete, and that gets rid of it. The second way is by using what's called the Quick Add, and that's this down arrow right here, or you can just type Q on your keyboard and it gives you the same thing. Quick Add takes natural language and turns it into an event. It tries to figure out what you're trying to say. So I can say calendar, online workshop, today, 4 to 6. And I click add. And there it is. Calendar online workshop, today, from 4 to 6. Now it's on the wrong calendar, it's the wrong color. So to change that, to edit that, you just click on it and edit the event. And here's where I can remove the video call. We're not doing a video call on Google with this one. Put it on the calendar that I want it on, get rid of the notification, and save. And after it thinks for a second, there it is. So again, this is a good, convenient way to do things. You just have to sometimes go back and fix a couple things. Not the most convenient. But if you like using natural language, or you're like my dad and you want to try to trick it into doing something wrong and then gloating that you know more about Google Calendar than it does, go for it. So I'll get rid of this one, and then I'll show you the easiest way to add an event. If I want to add something from 4 to 6, I take my mouse, I put it at 4 o'clock on Monday, I click and I drag down to 6 o'clock, and I let go. And now I've got an event from 4 to 6. I can type the what. I can change the calendar. And I can either create an event or I can edit it to fix a couple other things. Removing that. And there we go. So there's 3 ways to create a new event. You can use the big red create button. You can use the quick add, which is the natural language one, or you can just click and drag on the calendar itself to create an event. Now, what if something changes about the event? Well, you can click on it and edit the event. But there are some shortcuts that Google has built in for us. For example, if it was all of a sudden determined that this workshop is going to go until 7 instead of 6, don't worry, it's not. You can grab this little handle at the bottom, and just like you're doing in a drawing program or Microsoft Word, you can drag it to make it a longer event, and now it's from 4 to 7. Or you can back it up to 5:30. You just have to grab the little handles and drag them. If the start time is moving, like we couldn't start this until 4:30, you can just grab the box itself and drag that around to whatever time you're going to start it at. And then you can adjust the length of the workshop or whatever event it is. If it's on the wrong day, we had to postpone it till tomorrow. Just grab the event, drag it to tomorrow, and let go. And Google adjusts all of these things automatically for you. You could go in to edit event and change the date and change the start time and change the end time and then save it again. Or you can just drag it. And that's one of the great conveniences of Google Calendar is that you can just drag things around on the screen and it will automatically adjust everything. And if you're sharing this event with other people, if you have invited other people to the event or other people are co-sponsors of the event, it automatically updates on their calendars as well. All right, so we talked about creating events 3 different ways. We talked about editing the events. So let's take a look at some of the views and settings in the calendars. All these buttons up here control exactly what they say they're going to control. So right now I'm looking at November 10th through 16th. If I click the forward arrow, it takes me forward a week. Look at the next week. And then I can click it again to go another week. Or I can go back several weeks. If I'm somewhere and I'm not sure where I am, I can just click the Today button and it takes me back to today. You've got your mini calendar here. Right now it's showing November, but these little arrows take you forward. You can look ahead on your calendar or back, so you can look back on your calendar. You've got all of your calendars down here, other calendars down here. And then here is where you can adjust how you look at your calendar. I like looking at a week at a time, Monday through Sunday. If you prefer, you can look at one day at a time. Or you can look at the entire month. And again, right now, I'm only showing the Joel Perkin calendar, which is the blue, and the online practice one, which is this orange color. If I click the chemistry one, all of those chemistry ones show up. If I click CRT, all of my CRT ones show up. And it starts getting really crowded. I don't like the month view unless there's very, very few things to show on a specific calendar. You can look at the 4-day calendar, which always puts today in the leftmost column and then shows the next 3 days. So tomorrow, if I open this up, this column would be Tuesday, and then this column would be Wednesday. Confused the heck out of me. I like Wednesday to be in the middle of my page, so I never use this one. And then agenda, if you like having just a list of everything with the times. Some people prefer that. Again, as you click to add more of these calendars back in, it puts all of those things back in there for you. You can see where all these things are coming up. You can hide them, you can take them off. You don't have to print it out and then cross things off or write new things in. It puts in here for you. This is the new trick I just learned. If you want to see 2 weeks at a time, you can go over to your mini calendar, click here, and just drag across 2 weeks. And now it shows you 2 weeks at a time. And I might actually start using this view a little bit more. So I'm liking that option. If you want to see 3 days instead of 4, just click and drag over 3 days. If you want to see 3 weeks, click and drag over 3 weeks. If you want 6 weeks, you can do 6 weeks instead of 1 month. So however much you drag on the mini calendar is what it will actually show over here. That's kind of a new thing that Google released. This display density just changed the size of this day, week, month button. If it's too small for you, comfortable makes them very wide. If you're not good with the mouse, cozy makes them a little smaller, compact makes them even smaller. It's all in your preferences. Sync with mobile device actually opens up a new window that gives you directions on how to get this calendar on your mobile device, phone, iPad, Android, whatever you want. It has all the directions on there. Unfortunately, every single model, every operating system does it differently. I have an iPhone. I know how to do it on an iPhone. I have no idea how to do it on Android. I would have to open this up and just follow it step by step. Offline will actually download all of your events from the internet, where they're stored right now, onto your hard drive. So if you know you're going to be somewhere that doesn't have internet access, but you still need to see what your appointments are, you can click offline, and if you then hit enable, it actually saves all of them to your hard drive for you. This is giving you a warning because if you're using a public computer and you have appointments that give away personal information, you might not want to do that. There really isn't much danger if you're using your own laptop or the school's laptop, which does get wiped of information anyway. Settings, we've looked at a little bit already with the time zones and the weather down at the bottom. But there's even more in the settings here. If you come up to the top left, we'll look at the general settings. We can look at all of the calendars that you have. And this is a great way to manage all of your calendars. I've got a bunch of calendars that I don't use anymore or that I don't want to see even come up. Like, I'm not teaching AP Chemistry this year. I can get rid of this show and list. I can just uncheck that, and the AP Chemistry now isn't even a choice for me to show. It exists. None of the appointments have been deleted. They're all still there, but I don't see it in my list. I have Chemistry Spring. I don't need to see that one. Rehearsals and performances, I'm not in a show right now, so I'll hide that calendar. I can always come back and put it back in. Science department, I can hide that one. The two that it won't let you hide are the one it created with your name, and if you have tasks enabled, it won't let you hide the tasks. If you go to mobile setup, it can actually text you alerts. So we looked at the notifications before where it can pop up a window or send you an email to remind you of an event. If you give it this information, you can actually tell the Google Calendar to send you a text message to remind you of appointments and events coming up. I don't have it enabled on my school account, but I do have that enabled on my home account. So if I have a doctor's appointment or whatever that I need travel time for, my phone will get a text to tell me you need to leave in 5 minutes. I set that up myself. But the fun one is the labs. And this is where Google tests out new ideas. Although I don't know how new some of these are. If you look at the dates they were posted, 2011, 2010, and so on, they're not the newest ideas in the world, but they're in labs because they're still working out some bugs in their programs. The one that you really want to have is the fourth one down, and it's called Event Attachments. And you want to make sure that one's enabled. That will come in really handy with some things I'm going to show you, some ways to use this online. The rest of these, you can read descriptions of them and decide whether you want to enable them or not. I don't have any of the other ones enabled, except hide morning and night, because I never have an appointment before 6 a.m. or after 8 p.m. So I just hide everything from those times. Doesn't show up on mine. But event attachments is definitely one that you want to have enabled on yours. So once it's there, you can hit save, and we're back to our normal calendar view. All right, so we looked at the general settings, looked at the calendar settings, we looked at the labs, printing calendars. Some people still like to have paper things.
Hey, good.
Google-
I'm watching this virtual PD on Google Calendar.
And we can all hear you.
Whatever. But no, it's okay. No, they can't hear us.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we can actually hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Let's go and mute your microphone. To print the calendar, it's under More. So not under the gear, but under More and Print. And it will print whatever you have displayed. So I have a month displayed. When I hit Print, it will print the month. If instead of the month displayed, I have the week displayed, I go to More Print, it will print the week view. If I have the agenda displayed, it will print the agenda view. So whatever you have up here, you can just go to More, Print, and it'll print those. The refresh is if you've made a change to your calendar, or you know that somebody has shared something with you that is supposed to pop up on your screen, but it's not there. If you look at the week, you're like, I know somebody just shared a noon appointment Wednesday with me. Why isn't it there? Well, sometimes Google doesn't automatically refresh itself. You have to kind of force it to refresh itself. If you're expecting to see something that's not there, sometimes hitting More, Refresh is the way to find that thing. All right, so we've covered all of creating and managing calendars. So part 1 of our 4 parts is done. At this point, are there any questions that you'd like to put into the chat window? Are we pretty well up to speed on this? All right. Well, if you think of any questions, go ahead and feel free to stick them in the chat window. That works perfectly fine for me. I'll go ahead and move on here then to sharing calendars. And this is really what Google Calendars was designed for. It wasn't just designed to keep track of your own things. It was designed to share. And we can manage all of those in the Settings tab, the Settings command. So if we go back to the gear, into Settings, and we go to our calendars, we have a whole column for sharing. And so any of these calendars can be shared. So if I want to come down to the calendar that we created, the online practice calendar, and I want to edit the settings for sharing this, I get the online practice calendar details sharing. If you want to share this calendar with people, you have to click the box that says share this calendar with others. If you don't, no one but you can ever see this calendar, or no one but somebody with your login credentials, your email and password can see this. You have 2 choices then. You can share it with everybody in Greenville County School District, or you can make the calendar public, which means it's available, like somebody could do a Google search and find your calendar. If you're going to put your calendar on a web page, you have to click Make this calendar public. Otherwise, people in the world can't see it. And then you get this little drop down. Do you want them to be able to see all of the event details, meaning the title of the event, any description you put in there, anything like that? Or do you only want them to see a block of color showing that you are busy for that time? And that's up to you. If you're using this in your class, you probably want to let people see the event details, because that's where you can give a lot of information to people who are looking at your calendar. You can also share it with specific people. And you can see that you should already have your name and address in here. And it tells you that you can make changes to your own calendar, and you can manage the sharing of your own calendar, which is great. It's your calendar. You should be able to do that. But if I wanted to take this calendar and let my colleague, Sarah Gaffney, also have access to this, I can share it specifically with her, but not with anyone else. If it's, for example, if we're both teaching chemistry, and this is a calendar that I just want for us to be using for planning chemistry, I cannot share this with the general public, but only share it with her. And since she's equally contributing to this, I can use this drop-down menu to manage her permissions and give her permission to make changes and change the sharing. If all of a sudden we have another chemistry teacher join us, I can share it with them, or now that I've given her permission, she can share the calendar with them. I'm going to keep this public just so I can do my demonstrations later. If I wanted to share this calendar with somebody who wasn't at Greenville Schools, so for example, if I use my home Gmail address, I cannot give that address permission to manage sharing or even make any changes. And that's a restriction that Greenville County Schools has put on their version of Google Calendar that we have here. If I went to my Gmail, my regular home Gmail account, I can give anybody in the world permission to share that I want to. But Greenville County Schools has decided that people who are not in Greenville County Schools cannot do anything except see details or see free and busy. their decision. So I'll go ahead and delete my other address off of this, and I'll delete Sarah's off of this because she doesn't want to be bothered with a calendar that I'm just going to delete at the end of the session. And then I'll go ahead and I'll save this. And it warns you again, making your calendar public will make it visible to the world. Yeah, we kind of need to do that if we're going to put it on a website. So I'll say yes. And you can repeat that for any of these that you want to do. So I've got a calendar now that is completely wide and open to the internet. Anything I put on this calendar can be Google searched. If somebody wanted to do a Google search for Google Calendar workshops, the event that I created, which is right here, will show up on their Google search. And they can click on it and they can see any details that I've put on this. What if I don't want that? What if I want this workshop to be completely private, but I still want the rest of the calendar? I've got an event here that I want to email somebody about, and I create another event here that is homework due, and put it on this calendar. And then Thursday at 3, that's going to be a group meeting. But I don't want other people to see this Google Calendar workshop. The easiest thing to do, you can keep the entire calendar public, but if I edit this event and scroll to the bottom, I've got this visibility that I said I would come back to. Now I'm going back to this. If you go with calendar default, calendar is public, the event is public. Or I can make this one event private. The rest of the calendar is still public, but this one event now is private. And I can save that. Now I can still see it. But if I were to put this calendar on a web page, people would only see these 3 events and would not see this one. And I can tell it's private because when I hover my mouse over it, there's a little lock on there. People are locked out from seeing this one. Whereas these other ones don't have little locks. You're not locked out of those. Now for this, let's see, group meeting. If I want to specifically invite people to this group meeting, this I think is one of the most powerful parts of what Google Calendar can offer. You can invite specific people. So I'm going to make this one private. I don't need anyone else coming to this meeting. But I want to invite that person. I want to invite my colleague Sarah, and I want to invite, whoops, wrong address. I want to invite one of the assistant principals to the meeting. I've now invited these 3 people, which means that when I hit save, this will show up on their calendars and nobody else's. And it will ask them to RSVP for the event. And then there's right under here, yes, maybe no. It keeps track of how many people have responded that yes, they're going to be there, maybe they'll be there, no, they won't be there, and how many people haven't responded yet. All of a sudden, this becomes like a Facebook invite, right? But a little more professional because it's Google Calendar. If my assistant principal doesn't really have to be there, I'm just inviting her out of courtesy, I can actually click on her profile thing here and it grays out. That tells her that it's an optional meeting for her. Her attendance is not required. The darker icon, it's required. The grayed out icon, it's an optional meeting. And here's the other really great thing about this. Well, 2 more great things. There's a button to email the guests. So if I wanted to send an email to everybody I've invited to this specific event, say, don't forget to bring your laptops and the results of Unit 3. I can just click email guests. It will pop up a Gmail window and already put their addresses in there for me. So I don't have to go through and retype or find their addresses or do any of that stuff. It will automatically do this for me. And they can just reply all, and you can have a conversation going. The other great thing is the suggested times right down here. Suggested times actually pulls up all of their calendars and sees when you don't have a conflict. So I can see that 3 o'clock, nobody has a conflict. At 3:30, nobody has a conflict. At 4 o'clock, nobody has a conflict. It will go through their calendars and find the earliest time when all of you could possibly meet, which works out really well if everybody is keeping everything on their calendar. Now that means if you're teaching during the day, you have to have all of your classes on them so people can see you're busy during those times. Small sacrifice to use this really powerful tool, especially if you've got a lot of people you're trying to coordinate all at the same time. Now you can also let guests modify the event if you want to give them that power. You can let them invite others if you want to give them that power, or you could let them see who else is invited if you want to give them that power. You don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and get all of those out of there because, again, they don't need this popping up on their calendars. They're busy enough people. And save that. And so now we're back in our normal view here. And I'll put a couple more calendars on here just so we can kind of see some more business going on. So we talked about making the calendar public, controlling visibility of specific events. That was the very bottom of the edit event. Reminders, we've talked about. Notifications, we've talked about. Invitations, RSVPs, we've talked about those. The one more thing that a lot of people really seem to like, and I actually use it, if I go back into the settings and look at calendars, and I can come to the online practice calendar, under edit notifications, here you can decide how it's going to contact you, if it's going to contact you. So if a new event happens when somebody invites you to a new event, you can say, yes, I want to get an email when somebody invites me to a new event. And if you have your phone set up, you can actually click SMS, which is what means texting, and it will give you a text alert if somebody invites you to a new event. If somebody changes an event that you're a part of, you get an email or a text notification of a changed event or a canceled event. Or every time somebody RSVP'd, you can get an alert for that. And this is the one that I like to use with mine, daily agenda. Every morning at 5 a.m. or thereabouts, it's usually like 5:03, you'll get an email listing all of your things that you have scheduled for that day. So it's a great way to get up in the morning, get your email up whenever you first get that email brought up, and you can just see real quick what all you have scheduled for that day. It's a great little tool. It's just one email a day that they send you. You don't have to worry about anything else. And it works pretty well to keep yourself organized. Some people I know like to get that email and print it out and carry it with them so they have it on paper. To me, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of Google Calendar being online, but that's what some people like to do, and Google accommodates you on that. All right, so we've got those. That's all sharing, which is a really powerful thing. Any questions on the sharing of calendars at this point? Okay. Sharing calendars works really well as long as everybody has their calendar up to date, is keeping it up to date. If you have it synced with your phone, which is not something that we're going to go into today, but you can click on settings and sync with mobile device. You can set up on your phone, and it shows you how to do it for all these different types. When you add events on your phone, it actually adds it to your regular Google Calendar. So if I had my iPhone out and I'm in a meeting somewhere with just my iPhone and I'm like, oh, I've got to go to this meeting at 5 o'clock, I can add it to my iPhone, type it in, and it syncs to all versions of Google Calendar. So when I get back to my office and bring up Google Calendar on my laptop, the event will be there. Or if I put something on in my laptop, it will go to my phone, vice versa. So it's intended to be a way to really keep people on top of things, to be able to carry your schedule, all of your schedules, with you, and to share those as you're going around. And you can just click on these and work on those as much as you want. I talked about exporting calendars, downloading calendars. One thing that people worry about, and it's not an illegitimate worry, I think it's an actual thing to be worried about, and I actually do this. What happens if your Google account, all of your appointments and everything that's up in the cloud, what if that computer blows up? What if it melts down? What if it does something and all of your assignments, your appointments, your events are wiped out? If you've saved all of those to your computer, you can just re-upload them when they give you your new account. And that's what this Export Calendars button is here for. If you click this, it takes a minute, but it will actually go through every one of your calendars, save all of your events, bundle them together into a file that will then download to your computer. And then if you need to, you can just take that file, hit import, and send it back up to your calendar. Because I have all of these calendars with oodles and oodles of events, it takes a while for this to happen on mine. But it will eventually download a file, and I'm not going to wait for it, but it will download a file. You'll see it download, and then it just stays on my computer. And about once a week, I go through and I export calendars. I download all of my events and just delete the one I downloaded the previous week. I'm a little paranoid like that. All right, so we've got our calendar. We know how to share a calendar with the public to make it Google searchable. We know how to share it with specific people. But you don't want to have to go through and type in all of your students' email addresses to share a calendar with them, nor do you want them to have to try to Google search it to figure out, the right one that you. The easiest way to, well, two easy ways to share it with them. If you go back to settings, and I'm going to go to this specific calendar here, and if I scroll down a little bit, I've got this calendar address buttons, XML, iCal, and HTML. Lots of alphabet soup here. But if I click on the HTML, this is a web link that you can right-click, copy, and then go to your email and paste it into an email and send it to people so they have access to your calendar. So that would look like, when they put it in, it would give them a basic Google Calendar with just those things from this one calendar you've created on there. And so that's one way that you can share a calendar with a bunch of people. You can email it to them. And they just have access to look at what's here. They can't edit anything. They can just look at what's here. They can print it. And way down the bottom right, there's this little thing that says plus Google Calendar. They can add it to their own Google Calendar. So every event you put on here goes up on their calendar as online practice calendar. That's actually what we do in my building. We have the building master calendar is run by the secretary. And so we have all opened up the link that she sent us and click the little plus in the bottom right to add it to our calendars. And so all of the master calendar information in pink is all here, but that's a lot that I don't always want to see, so I hide it frequently. Don't tell her I said that. The other way, or the other ways to share these, the iCal is if you're sharing it with somebody who specifically runs the Apple iCalendar application. This is a link that they can plug into their Apple iCalendar to make that work, if you work with that. XML is a programming thing way beyond what we're getting into today, but it's another way to share a calendar with somebody who's using an XML programming language. And again, I need to make sure this is public so this actually all works. Yes. Okay. So there's one way. You can right-click, copy a link, and email a link to people. The more efficient way is to actually post this on a website for people to look at. in order to post it on a website, you first have to make sure that the calendar is set to be public and available, viewable to anybody in the world. If it's not, people aren't going to be able to see it. So you have to make the calendar public. And there's two different ways to embed it. If you're using Google's site to build your web page, and Greenville County does provide Google Sites for us, you can actually insert the calendar very easily. If you're using any other website builder, you have to use a little bit of coding, but I can get you through that pretty easily, pretty safely. So let's look at the Google Sites first. I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to use my Google Sites shortcut here that I have. But if I don't know where that shortcut is, I can always come up to this little apps button, little 9 squares, click that, and click on Sites, and that will take me to the exact same place. These are all the websites I've built through Google Sites, but this is the one we're looking at right now. So my website, oh look, there's a calendar on my website that is updated automatically. Every time I put something on my Google Calendar here in the right calendar, it automatically shows up on this for the whole world to see. So how do we put that in? I'm going to start with this blank page. And I'm going to edit the blank page with a little pencil that says Edit Page. And then I want to insert a Google Calendar. Google, again, was not very creative about naming things, which works in our favor. I want to insert, so I click on Insert, a Google Calendar, and now it walks me through the steps. Which calendar do I want to put on this page? Well, we've been working with this online practice calendar. I'll click on this. This also shows you the last time these calendars were updated, last time something was added to them, so you can also look at that. Select that. Height 600, I'm not going to mess with that. Width, as long as you leave this empty, it will automatically adjust to the size of the page, which is kind of what you want. You hate scrolling sideways on a web page. As long as you leave this blank, you're not going to force anyone to scroll sideways on a web page. I always like to put a time zone in. Not everyone does, but I do like to put in Eastern time. And the display options, I don't like the calendar name or title on there. If you do, that's fine. You can set this however you want. It's not going to change how it works. It's all cosmetic. I hit save, and I get this box. And on Google Sites, it doesn't show you the actual thing until you save it. And there we go. It is now on this practice page that I've created. Everyone in the world can see it. Everyone in the world can print it. Everyone in the world can click this and add it to their calendar right now if they wanted to. Now I can always rescind that. I can always go back into the calendar settings and make it unprivate, make it private again, make it unpublic, and it will disappear off of everyone's calendars who had added it to their calendar. So you still have control over that. It's not out there forever and ever. But what if I wanted to put more than one calendar on here? Like I wanted to show the online practice one, and I wanted to show school events. I could just come down below and put a second calendar down below, but no one wants to do a lot of scrolling. So Google has come up with a solution for this. If I click on the gear for properties, there's an option here for display another calendar. So I can click on this, and I can pick a second calendar to put on there. So I'll pick school information. And now this tells me that the online practice calendar events will show up in blue. General school information will show up in this reddish color. I can hit save, and then save. And there we go. School information in red, online practice calendar in blue, all on one calendar. Some people like to put multiple classes on one calendar, and they'll put classes in different colors. And you, of course, can control what colors they show up as. But if you like, your Algebra 1 to be one color, your Algebra 2 to be another color, you want them all on one calendar, perfect. You can totally do that by going back to Edit, Settings, for Properties, and Display Another Calendar. And you can put lots of calendars all up at once. Now, I like to keep mine separate, like separate one for each. On my homepage, I have general school events on here. On my National Honor Society page, I have a calendar once it loads. Once it loads. Well, there we go. I've got a calendar that's just my National Honor Society events right on here. No, and now I'm scrolling too much. On my professional development page, I have a professional development calendar. So I try to keep them as separate as possible, because nowhere on this calendar does it tell you what the different colors mean. Okay. My mistake. All right, so I can see that this is red and this is blue, but when I click on them, it doesn't tell me what those calendars are. So if you put more than one class on one calendar, there's no way to show on here unless you put every single one. Algebra 1 assignment, Algebra 2 assignment, which gets to be really tedious after a while. You don't know what the colors mean. And sure, you can train the kids. Your class is always mauve. It's sometimes easier just to have them as separate calendars and train the kids which page to go to instead of trying to decipher the colors here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, the X, and then save it. Okay, because I don't need that out there for everybody right now. The other way to put a calendar on, and this one's a little trickier, but it's not too bad, is you have to do a little bit of HTML programming. So this is a dummy site that I created just for the purpose of showing this. And I've got a practice page to put things on. This is what HTML code looks like if you've never seen it before. It does, I promise you. It's just not something Gesundheit that we're very familiar with. Most web page builders, and Blogger is a very popular one, when you're creating your web page, you can put words on there, you can change the font however you want to change it, you can make it headings, you can make it large, you can highlight it, you can do all sorts of cool things to the text. And it works just like Microsoft Word. This is what we used to call WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Of course, way back when, we'd have to actually type this out to create the web page in the HTML code. But now they've created ways to do this without having to use the code. You can just type it, use these buttons, and the website will generate the code for you. Unfortunately, there's no button up here for Insert Google Calendar. There's not even an insert button. So there's no way to put the Google Calendar directly on here the way we just did using the Google Sites. This button looks like it might be one, but that's insert an image. So that's not going to help us. What we actually have to do is come back to the settings, find our calendar again, and go to Calendar Details. And where it says embed this calendar, this is where you're going to get the code that you need right here to embed it in the website. This gives you the code that you want. So I'll just click and drag to highlight all of this code, right click and copy. I'll go back to Blogger, make sure I go to the HTML tab, right click, paste. It puts the code in there. If I save it and then preview it, there it is. It puts it on there for me. Now there's some things that look weird about this. It's too wide. It's running over all of this stuff out here. So that needs to be fixed. And we can fix that. Everything here is exactly the same as it was before. So if I want to fix that, I can delete this code because I'm going to put new code in there, and go back to my Google Calendar. And right above this code is a little link that says customize the color, size, and other options. Hey, that's exactly what I want to do. I can give this a title if I want to give it a new title, or I can hide the title and update the HTML, and it changes the code to make it do this. I can change the width. 800 was too wide, so I'll try 600. Update HTML. It changes all this code up here for me. I want the week to start on Monday, not Sunday. Update the code. I can set the background color to an exciting red. Update the HTML code. I can display the online practice calendar and phases of the moon and let's see, weather. I'll put those all on there. Update HTML. Once I've got everything set over here the exact way I want it, I can then click and drag to copy this. Right-click, copy. Come back to Blogger. Make sure I'm on the HTML. Right-click, paste. Save it and preview it. And it's exactly what I wanted. It's the right width now. It's small enough. It's a little bit off maybe. But I've got that calendar. I've got the weather. I've got the phases of the moon. It's all on here, just so we can personalize it however you want. Yeah, the question about Google Classroom. Someone asked if we can insert a calendar into Google Classroom. I have just gotten access to Google Classroom literally in the last week. I haven't played enough with it yet to really know for sure. I am told that yes, you can. I don't know how to do that yet. I'll tell you what, I will figure it out and I will send you an email with a little video on how to do that once I figure it out. So thank you for that question. That was a great question. I do want to start using Google Classroom as soon as I can. All right, so back here. Now some people, if you've already got a page and you want to put your your calendar somewhere in the middle of a page, it becomes a little tricky if you have to use the HTML part of it, especially if you don't know HTML. So I'll just show you what this looks like. This column here has a bunch of stuff in it. It's got a bunch of text, it's got a gadget, it's got a picture, it's got some Google Docs. What would the HTML look like for this column? Well, I can click the HTML button, and this is what it looks like. This is the code just for that left-hand column right there. Back when we had to build web pages by doing code like this would take forever to do. So if you want your calendar to be somewhere in the middle, like you want it specifically to be after one thing but before another thing, good luck finding the location in that page where you want it to be. I suggest either click at the very top and paste the text of the HTML code at the very top of the page, or stick at the very bottom by clicking at the bottom and pasting at the bottom. Unless you can kind of figure out what all of this means in here and where to put it, which isn't impossible. I mean, someone invented the HTML language. It's doable. Unless you're good at figuring that out or you already know how to do that, I would say just stick at the very top of the page or stick at the very bottom of the page, just to kind of get past that freakiness of, oh my gosh, I don't know where to put this. There's so much code here, I'm overwhelmed. Top or bottom solves your problems. And I'll go ahead and save this. I don't want to delete any of that stuff because I worked very hard at getting all of these documents on here. All right. So questions about that? I know I went through that really fast about embedding the calendar. As long as you're using Google Sites and you just go insert Google Calendar, it's going to be really easy for you. Great question. You have to specify which calendar you want. So I have it send me my CRT calendar, but it will send you one email per calendar. And so if you have 8 calendars, you'll get 8 emails with each schedule in it. So I just pick the one that's most important to me, and I just make sure I put the most important things on that one calendar. Great question. All right, get rid of Blogger, get rid of that, get rid of that. Good notification. All right, so let's come back to our schedule here, make sure we are on track. We talked about it being a public calendar. On Google Sites, you have to use insert calendar because you're inserting a calendar. Other websites, you use the HTML code from the settings and then use the editor on the web page to paste that code to put it in there. All right, we are 3/4 of the way through the presentation. Woo! All right, last bit, instructional strategies. So now that we've learned all these tips and tricks and we know how to create calendars and events and we know how to share them and we know how to invite people and we know how to RSVP to things and we know how to embed them and email links and all this other stuff, how do we use it in the classroom? And I've got a few very specific things that we can use this for. Some that are very teacher-centered to help you structure your class a little bit easier, and some that are much more student-centered. I'm going to start with one of the teacher-centered ones. You can use Google Calendar to create pacing guides for your classes. And I've just got a quick video here. This is not me who made this video. I completely stole this video from somebody, but I left all the credits on there so they can get full credit for it. And I really hope the sound from him comes through. It should.
One of my goals is to eliminate paper from my life as much as possible. Paper is easy to lose, clutters my desk, and is a drag on the environment. So whenever possible, I try to do things online. One way that I do that is by doing all of my lesson planning using Google Calendar. And just recently, Google has added a feature that enables you to attach Google Documents to your Google Calendar, which really makes it easy to do. To enable this feature, you need to go up
Wow, what a concept.
to the test tube right here. This is called Calendar Labs, experimental features that are currently being worked on. I'm going to click on that, and we'll see all of the labs options that are available, and you just need to enable them if you want to use them. One of those is attach Google Docs. This is not turned on by default, so you'll need to go here and click Enable to use this feature. Once done, I'll click Save, and then I'm going to create a new calendar called, let's say I'm teaching anatomy and physiology. Lesson planning for A and B. I'm going to do that. I don't want to share this with anybody yet. I'm going to say Create Calendar. You'll see it shows up, and I'm going to change color to nice green. All right, so let's see. Tomorrow is February 1st, and tomorrow I need to cover the skin. So I'm going to say skin, and I'm going to go edit event details. I want to make sure I change the calendar to anatomy and physiology. And this is going to be a multi-day. This is a unit. This is going to be tomorrow through, it's going to be a 2-week unit. So we'll go through February 12th. Okay. So do that. This is a unit on the skin. Then I'm going to click on Add a Google Document, and it will link to the Google Documents that I have available. And let's just pretend this is the skin. We'll just click these. Here are some things that I want to do. Click Select, and that will attach them to this event. So we'll say Save. Now let's see, we'll turn off these other ones. Confused. So now we see we have a unit on skin that stretches for 2 weeks. If I click on that and at the details, I have a quick access to my documents that I can use to review. So that's how you could use Google Docs for lesson planning. Now I can also see calendar or holidays that are coming up, and I may need to adjust my plans depending on the holidays. I can turn on my school calendar to see what school activities are coming up, so I can adjust accordingly. And if I want to, I can click on Edit Event Details, and if there are other teachers who I think would need to see what I'm doing, maybe so we could collaborate together, if I wanted to do a joint unit on something, say between anatomy and physiology and psychology. Maybe we can study the the nervous system together or something like that. We can share our calendars and add documents to share lesson ideas. So this is how Google Calendar can be used as a lesson planning tool.
So you can see kind of how someone might use this to plan things out and schedule things, and you can adjust things. If I go back to the calendar, if I wanted to make a unit that was, well, let's not do that one, in the month view that was this whole week, I can click and drag over 5 days and just call it, atomic theory. Put it on my chemistry one, and then I have a full week's unit called atomic theory. And inside of this, you can add attachments. This I use all the time because I've done it so many times where you've got this unit planned, you've got your unit documents, you've got your unit test, you've got reference materials, and you have to like dig through your computer because it's been a year since you've seen them. They're in a folder somewhere buried, you don't know where they are. But you can always, when you're doing the lesson planning, as long as you have your document uploaded to your Google Drive somewhere, and we'll talk about Google Drive in a later training, you can just attach any of those to this unit, and they'll all show up here. And then anytime you want to find those documents, you just click on Edit Event, and all of them will be listed out here. You can click on them, it opens up these documents. You never have to lose a document. It's always stored with the event that you need it for. So it's great lesson planning, it's great unit planning, and you can add guests, like we did before, for all the other teachers who are teaching the similar things, or if you know that there are resource teachers that would like access to this as well, you can share it with them. The question about putting a link to a video, you can put paste the link in the description box right here. You can add an attachment if you have downloaded the video to your computer and then uploaded the video to your Google Drive, which violates all sorts of copyright laws. So officially, no. If it's a video you've created though, and you've made your own video, like you're flipping the classroom type video, you've uploaded it to your own Google Drive, yes, absolutely. Anything that's on your Google Drive, you can add as an attachment. If it's a Learn 360 Discovery Channel video, whatever it is, you can actually just copy and paste the link in the description, and then you can just use that to go and find that again. Great questions. Good. The second idea that we have here, the second way to use this is individual lesson planning. So you can plan out your pacing guide. So how the unit's going to flow. You can move things around if things come up. If there's, the 10th grade field trip to the Career Center that you've got to add another date to your unit, you can do that. You can move things around. But when you're doing individual lesson planning, and I'd already started this process, I'm going to hide everything except my chemistry one, because I'd already started planning for chemistry back in the early part of the summer. I created an event for every day of the marking period. So day 52, 53, and so on. And then on each day, and of course I hadn't gotten this far yet, in the description, I put standard, EQ, relevance, and agenda. All of those learning focus things that we are required to have on our boards every day. So as I'm going through doing my lesson planning for each unit, I can say, what standard am I doing for this unit? And I would replace day 56 with a more descriptive title of what we're doing that day. So this might actually be, gas laws or mass stoichiometry or whatever the topic is. But I could put the standard, I could put the essential question, put the relevance, put the basic agenda here. And again, I could add any attachments for anything I wanted for that class period for that day. If I had created a Google Slides, which is Google's equivalent of PowerPoint, I could just attach it there. So when that day came up, I could just bring up this lesson and the PowerPoint, the slides that I wanted are right there. If there's a worksheet I wanted students to use, if there was a sheet for homework, if there was, again, a link for something online that I wanted them to have access to, I could paste the link into the description. And then I could have that ready access right there, all organized by lesson. And then when I go back to the end of the unit and kind of debrief myself and the team meets and we talk about what worked and what didn't, we can go back through each day and say, okay, well, what worked on this day? What didn't work on this day? What did you use for your worksheet? What video did you show? And we can work together to do that lesson planning. Now, if you're really brave, you can even make these available for students. You can make these not private, make these public events, and then your students can see every day standard, EQ, relevance, agenda, and all of the documents that you used. So they would then have access to all the notes, the worksheets, the homework, everything that you've attached to this. Saves a whole lot of trouble when you're dealing with kids who are absent or sick or not feeling real good today, I wasn't really paying attention. It's all there. They can't lose any homework assignments because it's right there. Their notes, if they miss something in the notes, you don't have to slow down for them. You can say, just go to the Google Calendar. It's all there for you. That's if you're really brave. Yes, what I would do is make sure that I kept things as private until it was time for students to see them. So I might, first thing in the morning, make this one public, but leave the rest of them private. And then tomorrow, I would unlock this one. And the next day, I would unlock this one. Because you know how kids can be. We don't want them working ahead and then getting confused and getting completely flustered and lost. You can leave them all private and just unlock them as you need them. Or if enough time has passed, you can go back and lock the ones that you don't want them to have access to anymore. It's very customizable in that way. For online teaching, it's really great when you don't see the kids in person. This is your way to interact with them. This keeps everything in one place for them. They don't have to go through and try to find different websites were posted or different emails that they might have gotten from different servers. It's all in one place. And Google Calendar and Google Documents, the slides, the Google Docs, all those things, are what we call platform agnostic. It doesn't matter what type of computer or operating system they're running on, they will open on anything. So, a kid who doesn't have Microsoft Word at home, doesn't matter. Google Docs will open on that computer. A third strategy is project planning. You can create a calendar for specific projects and then put events on there that are deadlines. We're starting a project today. By Thursday, you should have all of your research done. And you can actually go to the calendar and put an event on here on Thursday that is research complete. And even better, if you have a specific form that you want them to fill out while doing their research, you can attach that form for them to use while they're doing their research. Now, I'm told that Google Classroom kind of replaces some of these things, but this is a all-in-one thing that you can keep it all together, where they can add the visual of where on the calendar everything is and how many days they have to get things done. Again, if you're really brave, you can create a calendar for a project and share it with students and give them the rights to make changes to the calendar themselves, so that they can set their own deadlines for things. They can collaborate together. They can attach documents to share with each other and with you. Be very careful about how this is going to work. But it is completely possible to do that. And then you can always just go in and remove them from a calendar if they're not being appropriate with it. They can also schedule meetings and Hangouts, Google Hangouts, which is like video conferencing on Google, or real-time chatting on Google. Google now supports all of that. So if they have a laptop or a phone with a camera on it, they can video chat with their entire group, much like we're doing. It doesn't have all the same functionality, but they can still do that. And we all know that sometimes it's easier to actually talk things out than it is to try to type it or do things in an asynchronous way. So project planning is a big one. I've got a couple more on here. Repeating events is, and we already looked at how to do that. The yellow arrows point to the little repeat check mark. You can set up how often it repeats and all those other settings here. But if you have something that always happens on Mondays, Monday is always a vocab quiz. Friday is always a homework quiz. Thursday is always wear shoes that cover the entire top of your foot because we're doing a lab. You can set up a repeating event without having to type it over and over and over and over and over again. It gives the kids that regularity. The kids can see that there's a pattern happening. It is easier for you to keep track of these things. Staff meetings at my building happen every single Wednesday. I set up a repeating event, staff meeting Wednesday. That's every Wednesday from 4 to 5. It's on my calendar. It shows up every single Wednesday. And I just use repeating events to save myself some time. You can also post homework assignments. If you're not brave enough to post your entire lesson plan for students to look at, you can create a calendar that's just called homework. And each day you can post an event that is their homework assignments. So you can use attachments from Google Drive like we've seen lots of times. You can, on Wednesday, I can just create a homework assignment, edit the event, and I can attach a Google document of some sort to this. Or if it's book work or something they have to actually write out, I can just type the description in here. Page 203, numbers 1 through 12, and write a paragraph about how Niels Bohr changed chemistry. And there's our homework assignment. They can't lose it. They cannot lose it. It is right there on the internet for them. Their parents can get this calendar on their computer and see the homework assignments every day. Their resource teachers, their guidance counselors, anybody can get on here and see these things, especially if you've embedded the homework calendar onto your website. It's all right there. The other great thing about this is if something happens on that day and you don't get through things, or the drug dog comes in, or there's an evacuation drill or snow day or something, you can just grab this and drag it to the next day. You don't have to retype it. You don't have to change anything else about it. You can just move it to the next day. Or if your kids are getting really ahead of things, you can drag it back a day and assign it wherever you need it to be assigned. Works out really well. What I've seen a lot of people do is on Monday kind of create all the homework assignments for the week and just make them all private. And then as they get to them, just drag them to the day that they belong on. And just go with that. Not the way I would like to do things, but it is a way that some people spend their weekend planning. They just put them all on Monday, drag them, and make them public as they get to those things. And delete that one. So you can use attachments. They're available to absent students. They all have to do is log on. They can see that all. You can drag it from one day to another if schedules end up changing. The last instructional strategy I have here is appointments. And this is something that is only available through the Google Education apps. So your greenvilleschools.us. It is not available if you just have a regular Gmail account. So this is something you might not have seen before. When you create a new event, so if I want to come here on the 12th, and let's say I want to have parent and student conferences. Oh, well, let me do it on the month view. I've got to do it on this. Okay. So from noon to 4, I want parent-student conferences. Instead of an event, I can make this appointments. I'll put it on my chemistry, because why not? I can offer that as a single 4-hour appointment slot or offer slots of, let's say, 10 minutes. Fast conferences. I'm a fast talker. I can edit the details. And now this looks different than the other event details, but it still has a lot of the same things. Still has a title, still has a time block, 12 to 4 on November 12th. Offers slots of 10 minutes where, again, that's optional. Description is optional. You can invite, if you're setting up IEPs, you can invite the regular ed teachers to the IEPs. And then it gives you this really long web address. You're intended to copy the link address and either post it to your web page for people to sign up for appointments or email the link to them. And here's what it ends up looking like. On mine as a teacher, I see parent-student conferences 10-minute slots from this whole block here. As a student, if I clicked on that link, this is what I would see. I'd see the week here, and I would see all of these slots available that I could click on. And if I just hover over one of them, it gives me the exact time, 1:30 to 1:40. That sounds like a great time. I want to take that appointment. I click on it. It doesn't have the where description because I didn't type it in before, and I save. Now, that one's gone. It's not there anymore because I've taken it. If I come back and look at my calendar, and sometimes you have to refresh to make this work, I can see that a 1:30 slot has been taken. It shows up on my calendar, and it says that Joel Perkin has taken that slot. And as other people sign up for these will all fill up to show you that other people signed up for them. And these will slowly disappear as people sign up. So once an appointment slot has been taken, no one else can take that. Now I can then go in and delete the appointment. I can cancel the appointment. Or as a teacher, I can delete the appointment. It disappears from here. And if I refresh this page, the slot shows back up again. So either the student or you can cancel an appointment. Once an appointment's been taken, it disappears from here. No one else can try to take it. And then it shows up on your calendar as a teacher, and it shows up on their calendar. So it puts it on both automatically. Let's come back here. So you can, instead of event, you click appointment slots, fill in the details as you need, and then send that link to the people who need it. Now, in an online education setting, if you do online conferences with your students, you can still do that. You can still set up an online, chat, fingers typing chat, or a video chat with them, a Google Hangout chat. If you need to do these conferences with them, or an email back and forth conference, you can set up those times. And you can say, I've got time available from 12 to 1:30, and then again from 4 to 6. So you set up the 2 appointment slots, send out the 2 emails, or the 2 links to people. They can go to either one and choose one appointment slot. You'll see it, they'll see it. You can set up a reminder for it. It all works out really well. A little complicated to get used to, but it's one of those things that's a powerful tool that they're only limiting right now to people who have the education apps for Google. All right, that was a lot of information all at once. But just to review, we went over how to create and manage events in Google Calendar. So creating calendars by clicking on the little drop-down menu and create new calendar. We looked at 3 ways to create events and how to edit events. We looked at how to share events with the world or with specific people, and how to share calendars with the world or with specific people. We looked at how to embed Google Calendars both in a Google Sites webpage and in other web pages with HTML programming. And then we looked at several specific instructional strategies using Google Calendar. So, breathe. Are there any questions or ideas, brilliant things you want to share that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is how I'm going to use this now? This is called wait time. They do not, actually, which really surprised me. They don't have this Google Calendar for their regular one. They still have that PDF that you have to download and print out that's got itty-bitty tiny writing on it. I just this year convinced my building to use a Google Calendar for the master calendar. So slowly but surely, we'll get there. I do not use Outlook Calendar. Mostly because I've been using Google Calendar since before I even came to Greenville County. So I didn't even have an Outlook account. I was already using Google Calendar. You can, it is possible to export your Outlook calendar as a file and then import that to Google Calendar so that you take everything you've already done in the Outlook and put it into Google so you don't lose anything. But because Google and Microsoft don't play together very well, there's no way to set it up so when you change one, it automatically updates the other. Google and Microsoft are like that, and Google and Apple are like that. Getting Google Calendar to work on iPhone is a bit of a roundabout process. You can do it. They just don't make it easy because they don't like each other. At this point, if you like using Outlook Calendar for yourself, by all means, go ahead and use it. Google Calendar is intended to be shared with other people, especially with students and web pages. Like you can't embed your Outlook calendar in a web page. So if you still like using Outlook Calendar, I say go for it. Keep using it. Use the one that works for you. But in terms of using it for students and sharing things with students and other teachers, you might want to think about using Google Calendar and how that has some things that might better serve you just for those specific purposes. I'm not an evangelist for Google, so I'm not going to try to convince you that you must do this. Yeah, that's a great idea. Posting, just use it for what works for you. And there's no point in forcing you to use something that you don't like or that's not going to work. So absolutely. Any other questions or ideas? All right, I don't see anything happening on my screen and I don't hear any clicking of keys. So great. I was told that I have to have a secret word to give you at the end here. And now that we're within 15 minutes of 6 o'clock, I think we're good enough for this. The secret word for today is Menology, which is a synonym for calendar. Yeah, I've got a thesaurus and I use it. So you can go ahead and report that. If you need to report that secret word to somebody, I've already given it to Laura. And you're very welcome. This was really great. I've never done a full-length conference on Google or on Zoom before. So it was a lot of fun. And I'll see you guys in a few months for whatever the next one is. I think it's Google Forms we're doing next. So thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Again, my contact information is here. Yes, I'll spell the secret word for you. It is MENOLOGY. Menology. It's the calendar comes from the Greek, menology comes from the Latin. So that's where we get that from. Feel free to email me, call me if you have any questions. I will put that video together once I figure out Google Classroom, make a short 1-minute video, and email it to you guys. You are very welcome, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.